of the capacity planning chapter?
Sorry, ma'am. I haven't attended that class because I'm doing a job now, ma'am. So that's why sometimes I'm not attending the classes.
Okay, no problem. Others? Rakesh, please mute.
I think no one can attend the class, ma'am. Now till now.
Oh, all newcomers today to the class. Okay, it's
Yes, ma'am.
fine. It's fine. We will move on to the next chapter, which is load balancing. Are you able to see my screen?
Yeah, ma'am.
Okay, fine.
Yes,
Let
ma'am.
yeah. So what is load balancing? Like the other components of cloud, capacity planning and scaling. This is also a important component that enables the balance of workload among the servers on the cloud. With an analogy, let us look at what a load balancing is. You might have seen certain counters, office counters, or application form collecting counters, examination form collecting counters, and so on. There are people, and there might be a person who is sitting at the window, and there is a queue here. What this person does is accepts a form and gives out to the first employees who is um, there to sort this out, takes the second application and give out to another person, likewise perform for all this. Now each one of them will have um, one application. All are optimally balanced. All are having the equal workload. In case uh, there is no extra employee who is taking care of balancing this workload, if this is not there and separate windows are there and all of them are sitting on the window, sometimes you find that there is a small queue here, there is a very large queue here. When you have like this imbalanced queue, this one is overloaded with more work, and for instance there are um, no one in the queue at these two counters. So what happens is, out of these two are not at all having any work, these two are underloaded and this one is overloaded, and there is no balance in this situation, and it takes more time for this person to complete the work, and it takes less time for this, and overall the efficiency of this kind of situation and environment is not very desirable, that is low in the sense. When you look at this scenario, here you have a balanced environment in which each of them will be doing equal work, they are sharing equal work, and they could complete perhaps on the same at the same time, and then overall efficiency is also improved of this system. Same concept is applied here on the cloud. You have servers, there are several servers, and there are virtual machines with which users interact. These are physical servers. Users are not directly connected to physical servers, rather they have been allocated with the virtual machines, and here you have user, and then what happens here, this user requests a service which is more compute intensive, requires lot of time for processing, and here this user submits a task which is relatively simple to execute, and likewise. So what happens here is that there is no balance. Some of the virtual machines uh, which in turn are connected to the physical servers are overloaded, while some others are underloaded. Some might not even have work for some time. It happens. So this kind of environment may be created in the cloud when um, there is no concept of balancing of the load. When you have a component that ensures that every server gets the equal work and therefore balances the work and improves the overall efficiency of the system. This is the whole idea of load balancing. The definition of load balancing is that it is a technique to distribute processing and communication activities evenly. Evenly um, implies that everyone gets equal load or activity across the resources in the network, so that there is no single computing resource that gets overloaded. And typically this load balancing occurs in distributed computing environment. In a distributed computing system where you have several servers, there are several servers and there are several clients who are connecting to these servers, and then again the problem of uneven or imbalance load may occur. To avoid that, load balancing is a strategy or a technique that ensures that the processing and communication activities are evenly spread across the devices or resources or servers, and therefore achieves a optimal execution scenario. And what is that it achieves? It achieves um the improvised resource utilization. It improves average resource utilization rate and enhances overall performance of a system. All right, that is the aim of having a load uh, balancing mechanism in place. Okay, the students, mm, here the component that performs the task of load balancing is known as load balancer. Load balancer distributes the workloads across multiple computing resources such as processor, memory, storage, network switches. It's not limited only to processor. It can be for any computing resource like processor, memory, storage, network switches. And what is the objective of having such a load balancer? It is to optimize resource utilization, maximize the throughput, minimize the response time, and avoid overloading of any resource. And an important point here to remember is, in practice, load balancing techniques can be put into action through hardware or software. Through hardware or software, and through hardware, it is quite expensive and difficult, whereas software based solutions are relatively inexpensive and easy to configure and maintain. So this component, which is a load balancer, where is it placed between the service request and the service provider, which are the resources, servers, or processor, memory, storage, network switch, anything for that matter here. And here all the clients, consumers, uh, who provide the service requests, and in between lies a load balancer. How to implement this? To implement this, there are two ways. One is through hardware mechanism, by having a multi-layer switch system, or a software app. Hardware, we know that it's pretty difficult and expensive, because essentially it involves creating a hardware device that performs these tasks, whereas software is relatively easy, because uh, it is it is created in the form of lines of code, and This becomes easy because you can easily change the code. Configuration and maintenance turns out to be simpler. This is that point. Next one is importance of load balancing in cloud computing. How and what role a load balancer plays in cloud computing? What are its goals? What are the objectives? As we know that the cloud model is here to provide a reliable and economic services to the consumer. And when we talk about a reliable computing system, it has to be able to operate under varying load conditions. So let me underline these. Later I would share you this file so that for you it becomes easy while revising. And here this is an important point. Under varying load condition, a reliable computing system must operate efficiently. This property is ensured through load balancer. And load balancer, it acts as a layer of abstraction over the computing resources, physical or virtual, and ensures that the reliability is achieved by balancing the load. This is a layer. This layer acts as a load balancer, and it is between the service request and the what is happening here. Okay, students are joining. um, Load balancers accept services from the consumers and forwards them to the servers in a manner that each one of them receives equal number of services. So that is a layer of abstraction. And this layer can be between physical resource and consumer or virtual resource and consumer. All right. Here this paragraph summarizes the importance of balancing the load in cloud computing. Load balancing offers architectural flexibility, and it helps in making computing architecture scalable. Scalable, if you remember, scalability is extremely important in cloud computing, essentially because if you can't scale a system as per your requirement, there is no essence of having a dynamic environment. Scalability is therefore an essential property of cloud. To achieve scalability, load balancing helps by distributing the workload evenly, and it ensures efficient utilization. When a server is capable of serving 100 requests per minute, and this server is high end and is capable of handling 1000 requests per minute, it is important for a system to utilize the servers efficiently. Otherwise, there is no meaning having, um, you know, high end machines and servers and resources available at your end. In case of this server, which is able to handle 1000 requests, if you provide only 10 requests per minute, what is the meaning of having this server with us? And if this server, which can handle 100 requests per minute, is overloaded with say 1000 requests, then this server obviously drastically reduces its performance and reliability, and efficiency and throughput. Therefore, it is essential to utilize resources efficiently, uh, depending on their type. And then efficient resource utilization automatically. If you appoint a person to do this task, to hand over 1000 requests to this server and 100 requests to this server, you have to pay to this person, and there are several other um, problems associated when you have manual um, allocation of resources to requests. It's not very efficient. When this is done automatically through a load balancer, there is no person here, there is a load balancer here. This load balancer ensures that this server gets 1000 and this server gets 100. Just imagine how efficient it is and how much enhancement it brings to the overall excuse me. uh, and another point is that decoupling of application from its physical implementation during execution can happen if you have a load balancer that takes care of assigning an application to an appropriate machine. If this machine can execute application A and this can execute application B, this load balancer has to ensure that all the requests that belong to group A goes to this server. And that is what is decoupling. Decoupling is you are deassociating. You are creating an independent server and independent application. They are not dependent on both. And this layer of abstraction does that um, mapping. And then how load balancing is done in cloud. In cloud, at the back end, you have resources, and there is a I think there is a figure given. Let us look at the figure. This is how load balancing takes place in cloud. You have service requests arriving to a load balancer. Look at this. This is a layer of abstraction between requests and the one which executes the request or performs the request. It can be a physical server or a virtual machine. Here at load balancer, all the service requests arrive, and this load balancer ensures even distribution of these requests onto, in this scenario, these are the virtual machines. Load balancer can also directly forward the service requests to physical machines as well. Here, this shows that this load balancer is connected to virtual machine, and these virtual machines are mapped onto physical machine. From this physical machine, two virtual machines have been created. All right. Next. All right. The same figure exists twice. Once to show the load balancer component, another to show the levels of balancing. If you recall, virtual machine provisioning or resource provisioning was the concept that was already covered, which means allocation of cloud resources to the consumers. Provisioning is a technique of allocating resources to the customers. And here, uh, with respect to load balancing, there are two levels at which a load balancer can provision the uh, resource for a request at two levels. First one is through VM provisioning, virtual machine provisioning, in which this load balancer allocate the service request to the virtual machine. This way, when it is done through load balancer onto virtual machine, it is virtual machine provisioning. All right. And then resource provisioning, when this service request is directly allotted to the physical server, that is resource provisioning. Do you understand? This one is VM provisioning, virtual machine provisioning, and this one is the resource provisioning. What are to load balance? What are the resources for which you can perform load balancing on a cloud? So the list of resources and services which are mainly responsible for load balancing in cloud environment are application server instances, including processor and memory, storage resources, network switches, and the services such as DNS, TCP, HTTP, HTTPS. Okay, these domain names are service, this transmission control protocol. These are the services. So these are the list of resources and services that performs the load balancing in cloud computing environment. And what are the goals of load balancing? The primary goal is to distribute the service loads among resources. That's the primary goal. Besides that, there are other objectives. The first one being improvement of system performance. It's obvious that when you distribute the workload among all the machines or servers or resources available, the performance of the system improves, as there is no server which is overloaded. If there is any one server which is overloaded, the overall performance reduces. When every server is doing its operations at its optimum level, then overall performance improves. So to improve the system performance, to maximize fault tolerance, how fault tolerance can be maximized? If there is a load balancer available, and if load balancer observes that this server has failed, then load balancer can equally distribute this server's workload among the rest of the 3 servers. This is like fault tolerance. This server has failed, but it has gracefully adjusted the workload, and perhaps the client does not even um, become aware of the failure. And accommodate scaling. So scaling has to be done properly by redirecting the load to newly introduced servers. In this scenario, there are 4 servers, out of which one has failed, and probably the system has introduced another server. Meanwhile, they have adjusted, they have balanced the load among the other available 3 servers and also introduced a new server. In that case, what load balancer has to do? Immediately has to balance the load now among all the 4. This newly introduced server should not be underloaded. This should also be equally loaded on par with other servers. And thus it accommodates scaling. To ensure availability of application all the time. And uh, when this server failed, there might be some services which are provided by this server, and load balancer has to ensure that the applications which are uh, available on this machine should be made available on other machines as well, so that uh, client gets the services without any disturbance. So apparently, load balancing is not only about distributing the load among resources, it's also about uh, achieving these objectives that enhances the overall usage experience for the clients. Going further, categories of load balancing. Um, Broadly, there are 2 categories: static and dynamic. Static load balancing does not use any knowledge base. and distribute the service requests only based on the characteristics of the request. Look at this figure. In this static approach, there is this load balancer sitting between consumers and the servers, and receiving the consumer requests and forwarding to the servers based on the type of the request. Uh, in this scenario, what happens is load balancer is forwarding the requests to the servers, appropriate servers, however, does not maintain any knowledge base and does not have any information about the servers. What is this server up to, and what type of work is being handled by this server? There's such information is not available at the load balancer. It's just static. What it does, it ensures that server A receives one request, server B received another request, again one more, again one more. Like this, in this static manner, it keeps on forwarding. With an analogy, I can tell you that if this person who is sitting on the window knows about the no, does not know anything about the people who are handling these forms, just forward the request to them so that all of them get equal share of work. This is static. Uh, Moving on to dynamic approach, it is about getting the feedback. This dynamic approach does not strictly follow the fixed rules, rather takes decisions as per the feedback received from the servers. What may happen is, in this scenario again, there may be few people who may be expert in handling certain type of applications. If this person knows about their expertise, what this person does can forward to them as well as take the feedback and ask them, have you completed all the applications? Do you have more applications to be complete? You know, it's all about asking before handing over. This load balancer asks the server A, have you completed all your tasks? Do you have any scope for more two new tasks to be done? And based on that, the load balancer takes decisions. Dynamic load balancing of course brings many advantages as it's not fixed. Many a times fixed systems, although improves certain aspects, uh, but brings another problem, another set of problems. Nevertheless, dynamic is most of the times the best. Dynamic decisions, dynamic environment creates a flexibility and reliability and more spontaneity. So if you look at the techniques belonging to dynamic load balancing category, we have distributed way of doing, non-distributed way of doing. In distributed, you have cooperative based and non-cooperative. Non-distributive way can be done through centralized, component, or semi-distributed. Let us look at what are these. Dynamic load balancing can be done in a distributed way, means that uh, the task of load distribute balancing is performed by all the nodes present in the system. This one is like this. With the same analogy, there are 5 people sitting to process the applications. What I said is that there is another person accepting the application. This one is known as centralized way of doing the thing. This one, what they do, they themselves interact. This person 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Person 1 asks how many you have to others. These may in turn ask others. They figure out themselves. They know they don't need an extra person here who does this allocation. It's not there. This is a distributed. All the servers together handle this load balancing. They themselves communicate among each other. And this server asks this server. So when this server is overloaded, may ask server 2, do you have any resources to handle extra tasks because I am overloaded? If they say no, I can't handle, then this may ask this one. Like that, this is a distributed manner. Cooperative, in distributed, cooperative means they work, all of them work towards attaining the same goal. Same goal, like improving the overall response time. Cooperative means achieves the same goal. Non-cooperative, each one of them may have their own goal. For instance, if the goal is to provide service to the task maximum in a maximum of 1 second, consider that 1 second is the limit for any uh, service request that arrives to these to this is the this, like now in cooperative, this is one system that achieves this goal, whereas in non-cooperative, these servers will have their own goals. The server one goal probably maybe to achieve 1 second, this perhaps maybe to achieve in 2 seconds, this one maybe in half second. So each one of them have their own goal. That is non-cooperative way of uh, you know um, handling this load balancing. Non-distributive way, there is a person here, an extra person who accepts the applications and forwards them to the handlers, form handlers. These are the form handlers. This centralized means there is only one point of receiving of all the applications. That is centralized way of doing. Semi-distributed. In semi-distributed, what will happen is these can be formed into groups. Now we have 2 groups. In this, there will be A cluster, uh, if you talk about cloud environment, you create the you create clusters out of whole system. This may be one cluster, this probably may be another cluster, and then within cluster there may be one centralized point. All right, students. Semi-distributed. Semi-distributed means not all are participating in the dialogue of load balancing. Rather, the whole system is divided up into clusters, and in each cluster you have a centralized point. This may be the centralized point. Here, what happens is this person is the form acceptor. Here, this person may be the form acceptor. So there is a central point in every cluster that is semi-distributed.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes.
In
Yes, ma'am.
non-cooperative, each one have their own goals, no, ma'am.
Yes.
But there is no distribution, no, ma'am. In that, how can we say that is distributed way? As
There
they
is a
have their
distribution. There
own
is a
goals,
distribution. Okay. What happens here
they have
is,
different goals, no, ma'am.
although they have different goals, they adjust the workload in case when one is overloaded and when one is underloaded. Here, what happens is, okay, let me give you an analogy. Um, Four students are working on a project, okay, or say that there are four friends. They are working on four different projects, and what happens, they are working on creating charts, for instance. Okay, so this student uh, is creating a chart, and while creating chart, this perhaps this student is slow, so is not able to do it quickly, and this one has completed his chart preparation. Then what he can do, what is the goal, each of them should prepare their own chart. This student might be preparing chart on virtualization, he is preparing on resource provisioning, he is preparing on scaling, he is preparing on capacity planning. On these different topics, they are preparing their own charts. Okay, these four students, their goal is different, they are not working on a same goal. But suppose if this student has completed preparing his own chart for resource provisioning, he can help this student in preparation of the chart for virtualization. This is a distributed way, but means distributed way, sharing the load with a different goal. If suppose all four of them are preparing one single chart, then that is one single goal, that is in cooperative manner. Here it is possible to share the load. This may ask this one, this may ask this one, or this may ask this one. It is possible. Hope it clears.
Yes, ma'am.
Very good. Next, parameters for consideration. What are the parameters to consider while implementing a load balancing technique? Parameters are resource utilization. You have to check up on resource utilization. So what does it implies here? It implies that every resource is utilized in a proper manner, and no resource is overused or underused. That is resource utilization. Response time is um, the time required for a specific load balancing algorithm to respond. This is about, these parameters are about considering the load balancing technique. Means okay, you are implementing load balancer, right? There is a load balancer here in between this service requests, and here the resources. In between them you have a load balancer. While you are creating this load balancer, means an application which itself is an application. While you are implementing an application for load balancer, what are the factors to consider, or the parameters? Resource utilization. This load balancer has to be created in such a manner that these resources, resource 1, resource 2, resource 3, these are properly utilized. And the response time, due to the fact that there is a load balancer, should not introduce more time. Here the response time should be same with or without load balancer for serving the requests. That one. And then you have system health. System health means what happens is, when some component fails, system health should be maintained periodically by checking the efficiency of the nodes. Load balancer has to keep checking the health of the system to find out whether any component has failed. In that case, the overall performance be degraded and will go down. So load balancer has to take prompt action in such cases. And there might be a overhead associated with the load balancing activity, and this has to be reduced. And the criteria to design good load balancer is to minimize the overhead. There is an extra component, right, between the consumers and the provider resources. That component should not incur overhead. Even if it is there, it should be minimal. Scalability. Load balancer should be able to increase or decrease the resource. In other words, this scaling is about increasing or decreasing the resources, and load balancer should also support that. Load balancer seamlessly should provide scale up and scale down features of cloud. Load balancing algorithms. There are two kinds of load balancing algorithms. Class agnostic or load balancing algorithm is first one. In class agnostic, load balancer is not aware of a specific type of class and makes a general decision, a generic decision that is applicable to all the resources. This is like having a same syllabus to all the students. Not every student is not students are having different capabilities, they have different potential. But then what the syllabus does, syllabus of 5 units expects all the students to study all 5 units in a equal manner. That is that can be said like a student agnostic syllabus. Means the syllabus is not concerned to a particular type of student. Here, when load balancer is not concerned with a specific type of resource or content, then that class is known as that type of load balancing algorithms are known as class agnostic load balancing algorithm. And second type is uh, class aware. In class aware, you have further two kinds. These are the load balancing algorithm. Class agnostic is the first type. Second is class aware. In class aware, you have content aware, client aware, and both content and client aware. Content aware, uh, if suppose a student is very good in programming, then we give more of programming language uh, courses to that student. That is content aware. If a server is performing a better task on certain applications, certainly this load balancer has to forward such applications to that server. That is content aware. Client aware, suppose if I am the client, if I am using a particular server and load balancer allot the same server to me every time and know that I am the one who has used that server just a day ago or 1 hour ago, that is client aware. When algorithm knows both client and content, it's client and content aware. And then persistence issue. Here there is a persistence issue in the sense that sometimes uh, a consumer stores certain information on the server, right? Here there is a load balancer, here there is a server. If this client requests again for a service, and if this load balancer allot another server, then it is difficult for the client and server because they have to start from the scratch. To preserve that information, there is a concept of session. Session is a sequence of activities or tasks or requests that are generated from the same client during a certain time period. So during the session, it is better to have the same server allotted to that consumer. That is about persistence issue. And then session tracking can be done. Application delivery controller. It is an advanced category of load balancer. It is also a kind of load balancer which is uh, an advanced version with functions and features that enhance the performance of the applications. So there might be certain applications like applications for handling images. If you have certain applications for handling images and What these application delivery controller does is they handle the load between server and also perform application acceleration. Application acceleration means speeding up of the execution of the applications. Suppose if there is one application that handles this images, so acceleration is very important in this case. Acceleration means to do the task in less time, to speed up the things. So these kind of load balancer uh, ensures that they accelerate the application execution. And what they does is they can perform some kind of offloading, some content compression, and they can process encryption and authentication requirement. These simple tasks will be performed by that load balancer, and then the actual server performs only the specific task related to processing of images, for instance. Okay, that is application delivery controller. Next one, case study, Google Cloud. Google Cloud is a popular cloud service by Google. And how does it balance load? There is a Google Compute Engine, you know, which is compute processing part of cloud. So what this does is this offers load balancing, and this is done in two ways. First one is whenever a request arrives, a DNS, that is domain name system, looks for a server which is near to that location. Being here at um, you know Hyderabad, if I send a request, this DNS system, there is any server in Hyderabad or any other place which is nearest to Hyderabad, and then it forwards the request there. That is first step. Second step is after the request goes to the server, then or a data center, there in the data center, which one is which server is having the medium workload, so that you can forward this request to that. Means first it examines and find out which is the nearest data center for first step. Second step is within a data center, which server is appropriate to be given that request. In this two way, Google Cloud performs load balancing. And this Amazon Web Services, AWS, in that you have Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud, EC2. This EC2 also performs load balancing with respect to auto scaling group. Okay, what happens is when a load balancer is created, it is configured to link with EC2 instances of an auto scaling group, and these EC2 instances are registered with load balancer with their IP addresses. And this elastic load balancing technique has two modules. One is a load balancer and another one is controller service. And load balancer monitors the incoming cloud, incoming traffic and distribution of service requests, and controller monitors the load balancers. Did you understand this? In EC2, load balancing is done uh, by two components. One is load balancers. We have load balancers that monitors the incoming traffic, whatever comes in. There might be several load balancer or one single for one specific group of servers. It depends. It varies with the uh, complexity of the system. And then this monitors the incoming traffic, and there are controllers. There here controller, here controller. These controllers will monitor the load balancers this way. This is Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud way of dealing with load balancing. Okay students, I hope it is clear. Which class you have now? Okay, shall we quickly complete this in 2 minutes? Which among the resources the load balancing in computing is done? Tell me. Quickly, each of you participate in this. Let us finish this in 2 minutes. Students,
All of the above.
very good. All of the above. Second, yes, students.
I think server.
Well, load balancing can be done for any of these, all of these. It's not only for servers, it's for storage, for anything you can have load balancing.
Storage can be changeable, ma'am, from one device to another device. Automatically, they can. I mean,
Why not?
they can distribute themselves storage.
If there is an application, why not? And if there is an application that can monitor the storage, then it is possible to allocate the program from one memory to another memory. Operating system does that. We have studied in operating system virtual memory and storing of the data into pages, into segments, and moving from this page to that page. All that is possible. Okay, I think what you're saying, but it is possible. Might be here in this context, server is more appropriate, right?
What in what device? It's not important, ma'am. In any device, you can store no. By
Yeah,
why
yeah.
from this to that? Like that, I'm thinking that way, ma'am.
In that, okay, that I'll tell you. Suppose there is an application that has um, 10 GB of memory, okay, and there are devices here. In this device, already 2 GB is stored. In order to have 10 GB together, you can move on to the next bigger device which has the capacity to store 10. So this 2 can also be moved, and plus 8 can also be kept. It's possible, it depends on the application. Sometimes this may not be very efficient way of doing it, so you may not do it. If suppose you want to have this 10 together at one place to speed up the task, then you can move this here, or you can save 10 here and delete this. There are different ways of handling storage also. Manisha,
Okay, ma'am.
is this clear?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I think another madam is waiting for you in the group. I saw the message. Uh, Let us do it tomorrow. You will also go through it once and come so that we can have a
Okay, ma'am.
discussion. Okay, students. Bye.